chance at freedom after over 30 years behind bars. Lyle and Eric Menendez, the brothers convicted for the murder of their parents in 1989, could soon be free in a groundbreaking move. They were just resentenced to 50 years to life, now making them eligible for parole. I'm joined now by Mark Geragos, the attorney for Lyle and Eric Menendez. Mark, what an honor to have you on. You're such a legend. You know, I remember watching you on TV and captivating audiences. This is a groundbreaking move. Explain how this all even happened.
You know, and thank you. My kids would say legend in my own mind, but the 2 years ago, I was talking with my co-counsel, who's Cliff Gardner, and we worked on a couple of post-conviction matters, and he was talking about filing what's called a habeas corpus, which is a kind of a post-conviction writ that you can file. And we were discussing whether we would do it in their own names or ours, and we decided we wanted to work together, and we did it. We filed it, and over that 2 years, all kinds of confluence of factors happened, not the least of which is that the burgeoning California prison system, in order to encourage prisoners to be on their best behavior when they have no hope, and life without parole is basically no hope, to encourage them to kind of change their ways and get the insight that they need. And sure enough, these two men have, over the last 35 years, demonstrated remarkable insight and rehabilitation. And we put a hearing on this past week, and the judge bravely and courageously gave them an opportunity and granted it. For the first time in 30 years, they've got some hope of getting out.
So Lyle and Eric maintain that they were abused severely by their father. How much did that weigh in on the judge's decision to now resentence them?
You know, in the hearing, we put on three of the relatives, and this is what I call a unicorn situation, where the relatives of the defendants are also the victims. And I put on three of the victims, and one of the witnesses, Diane, who we put on, talked about the hallway rule, which is stunning if you have kids. The hallway rule was if Jose was down the hall in the bedroom with one of the boys, then Kitty would not let anybody go down the hallway. It was enforced in that house. That 35 years ago was the rule. Imagine that today being enforced. You'd have Department of Children's Services breaking down your door if that were the case. That, I think, speaks volumes to what was happening then. And I've often said, if they were the Menendez sisters, they wouldn't be in custody.
Also, I think if they hadn't killed their mother, you know, like that's what really got me.
I think that was something that the public focuses on. I will always tell people when they say, what about that? I will say, look, Joan Vandermolen, who's still alive, Kitty's older sister, is one of the greatest proponents for their release. If she can find the forgiveness in her heart, who am I or who is anybody else to second guess that?
I see your shirt there, reasonable doubt, which brings me to my next question. The P. Diddy case, another case the world is watching. You have a connection to that case as well. Your daughter, only 34 years old, Tenny Geragos, she is the lead attorney on that case. Talk to me about, like, because you listen to the testimony and you're like, my God, P. Diddy is a monster, but it's not as a slam dunk of a case as maybe people think it might be. What are your observations there?
I'll give you my observations. I watched her give the opening statement, and I will say that my father, who was my partner and was a former prosecutor here in LA, I would say that talent skips a generation, and she got the talent. And she gave a powerful opening statement. The evidence is there. We're only week 1 out of 8 weeks, and I would just caution people, as the judge tells jurors, wait until you hear all the evidence. I understand that there's always kind of the demonization in these supersized cases, but as the judge says to the jurors, just wait, hear the evidence, and see for yourselves how it unfolds. One of the problems, if you will, in federal district court is that you don't have cameras in the courtroom. So the evidence is always filtered through a third party unless you're there in the courtroom. And so we'll wait, we'll see. And, obviously, you know who I'm pulling for.
You must be a very, very proud father there. Mark Geragos, thank you so much. And come back to us, because obviously we'll be waiting and seeing what happens with the Menendez brothers. How quickly could we see them be resentenced, real quick?
As of right now, they had a clemency hearing set for June 13th. The governor this week changed that into a parole hearing. We'll see if that goes on the 13th or shortly thereafter. But I think there's a lot of hope here for 2025 being their year. It's already started out fantastically for them.
Mark Geragos, the one, the only legendary, not in just your own mind. All right. Mark Geragos.